So, moving on to our next topic, I wanted to talk a little bit about Joe Rogan. He has been the most popular podcaster for like 10 years now. He
Oh
is a very
God, yeah.
successful comedian with a number of Netflix specials. And
Shit, does he actually have a Netflix special?
he has multiple Netflix specials.
My God, I never noticed that.
Well, anyway, his podcast covers pretty much the entire political spectrum from um you know
From normal
from like
working people to those who want to hunt the poor for sport.
yeah, it ranges from like you know
Your fellow
mildly like
man.
like social democrats like Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, um
Crystal
you
ball.
know Jimmy Dore is probably the most left his guests have gotten. That is coming from someone that doesn't watch Joe Rogan religiously, so, I might be missing someone, but, yeah, it ranges from that to, like, actual Nazis, and his show has faced a lot of criticism for that, for basically, platforming and, ushering in the alt-right. He's had, like, Dave Rubin on, Ben Shapiro, who they don't call themselves white nationalists or racists or white supremacists, whatever word you want to use. They
They clearly are.
certainly they use coded language. They say like, well, of course I don't agree with white nationalists, but like and then they go on to like defend
White
um
nationalists.
white nationalists, yeah. And they of course like they attempt to delegitimize any kind of opposition to white nationalists, because like Ben Shapiro for example will say like, well, of course let's just say hypothetically that systemic racism existed, then that would mean that there are explicit laws that are worded to say that black people aren't equal, and that just simply isn't the case.
Your Ben Shapiro impression is just it's too good, Alex. Like I start hearing it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking punch him, and it's like, oh no, wait, that's Alex. That's not Ben Shapiro. That being said, though,
Yeah,
I fucking hate Ben Shapiro's voice. Every
I
time I
know.
hear it, it's like it's got that it's that level of like snarky I'm better than you attitude, but at the same time most of what he says is complete inane bullshit.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was getting at is that he
Oh, yeah, sorry.
he tries to debunk systemic racism. This is just one example of how he's terrible for the political discourse, but Ben Shapiro, when he talks about systemic racism, he says that if systemic racism was real, which it is,
It
by the
is.
way,
Yeah.
he thinks that the definition of it is that um like pre civil rights era, like explicit explicit wording of laws to be like black people and white people cannot use the same drinking fountain. He thinks that that is what systemic racism is, as opposed to like like redlining and um implicit biases in like employment, for example. He acts like it's not real because we don't have any specific laws that say that black people aren't allowed the same economic opportunities as white people.
Yeah.
And he has on like Dave Rubin, who, well, he is himself gay, which you'd think would make him kind of distance himself from the alt right, which is notoriously, homophobic. Um,
Yeah.
he is instead a mouthpiece for the alt right. He's basically like the Candace Owens of gay men.
Candace Owens?
So Candace Owens is like the Dave Rubin for black people.
Ah, okay. So I've seen him before now. I just didn't know what his name was.
So you don't know who she is?
Oh, I'm thinking of someone else then.
Candace Owens, it's worth explaining. Candace Owens is she's an African American female political pundit slash like author. She does a lot of like conservative
Okay, now I know who you're
commentary, like on
talking
Fox
about
News and stuff.
now. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fox News reporter.
I don't know if she's a Fox News reporter specifically. I know she does go on Fox News a lot,
I
but
thought
I
she
think
was a
she's
reporter.
primarily like an author. Um,
Yeah. She's on there
either
enough for
way,
me to think that she works for them.
yeah. Either way, she's like their token black person that is allowed to say like, "Oh, black people are just so lazy, and that's why they don't get that's why there's a wealth gap between white people and black people." Like, if a white
How
man went
much
on
do
and
they
said
pay her
that,
to say
then
that?
he would get run out of town, and then she goes on and says it, and it's like, well, she can't be racist. She can't
Yeah.
possibly be racist because look at her, she's black.
Oh my god. I mean, that's basically the mindset behind it, though.
Anyway, going back to Joe Rogan, he has these people on his show, and um I just want to go through this point by point. I have some notes that I wrote down. First point that I wrote down is don't platform Nazis.
Yeah.
Um which is a very hyperbolic way of saying that the my nuanced take of like you shouldn't use your vast audience to promote ideas that are just harmful to society.
Yeah. I'd go a step further and just say, don't use your platform to promote ideas that even yourself you don't believe in. If you don't think believe in something, don't fucking invite the spokesperson of it on. Because like that's just gonna be a dumpster fire, and then you're gonna wind up with Joe Rogan. Joe, I
Yeah.
agree with everyone that's on my podcast, Rogan.
Yeah. And this is another point that I wrote down. If you are going to be platforming everybody, which is what he does,
Yeah,
well, sort of. He doesn't platform everybody. He platforms his alt-right friends and some left-wing YouTube commentators that everyone pressures him to have on the show. Um, but yeah, if you're going to be having on all these people that represent the all kinds of points on the political spectrum ranging from left wing to wrong, then you should at least be knowledgeable enough to push back on what they're saying.
yeah.
Because I've seen so many clips of Dave Rubin or Ben Shapiro or whoever else, like Jordan Peterson. He's been on a couple times, I think, where these people just go on about how like the left is really bad because they do identity politics, and when they do it they say that that transgender people are all victims and everything, and the right also does identity politics, to a degree, I would say, but it's hardly to the degree that the left does it. It's a very small sliver
Why
of the
is
right
that
that
a
does
bad
identity
thing
politics.
though?
Yeah, it depends on what your definition is of identity politics.
Like I assume identity politics is just like letting people change their gender.
Yeah.
I
Um I've I don't
Does
know
that go
if I've
against
done it on the
God?
show specifically, but I have just in general, I've talked about how identity politics is bad. But when I say identity politics, I'm talking about people that are, let's just say, running for office,
Oh
and they say
yeah.
like, I'm, I'm
I'm gonna be the first blank in office.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
They're
okay, yeah,
trying
but what do
to
you believe in? Are you going to liquefy homeless people, or are you going to like try to make the world a better place? I don't care if you're the first
exactly,
fucking. I don't care if we have the first fucking solid gold midget in the fucking office. If that guy is promoting death to everyone that isn't a solid gold midget, don't vote him in.
yeah, Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I say
We don't
identity
need to.
politics.
We're not a paper company in New York. We don't need to check off the minority lists as we hire them
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, what I refer to is just filling in boxes
Yeah,
for things that you are. But when Dave Rubin talks about identity politics, like he did in the clip that I was referencing a minute ago, he is talking about like, um, I guess letting trans people be who they are.
giving trans people basic human rights.
Yeah, yeah, like
That's his
protections.
idea of the bad side of identity politics.
Yeah, like protections for trans people, like making it like adding like legal penalties if you target and harass and attack physically attack transgender people, or even like harass online. If you harass a trans person online, some people say like there should be consequences for that, which is true. You shouldn't be allowed to target trans people in the same way that you shouldn't be allowed to target black people. Um, but Dave Rubin would refer to that as identity politics.
Yeah, because he wants to hunt the poor for sport.
Yeah. Like Black Lives Matter, according to Dave Rubin, would be identity politics when it's clearly
It has nothing to do
just
with identity, though.
yeah. I mean, I guess it does in the sense that like these people with a specific racial identity, being African American, are trying to
Not get
combat.
shot all the
Yeah,
time.
they're trying to combat police brutality, and people on the right will be like, well, white people get shot by the police too. It's like, well, that's not what this is about.
Like, well, okay, then you should be, going in the street too. There's obviously a problem here.
Yeah, I hardly see anyone respond with that point. Like, okay, yeah, police do get shot by the or white people do also get shot by the police too. Definitely not as much. But if you're upset about that, yeah, join the protests. Police shouldn't be randomly shooting people.
Yeah, it's like if
But yeah,
I don't
um
understand. Like, are they just okay with the police just shooting people as long as the black people die too? Is that what they're trying to
I
get at?
guess. I guess apparently. But
What the fuck?
anyway, yeah. Um that's all background to my point that if Joe Rogan wants to talk to these people and he wants to have finger quotes debate with them about these issues, he should be knowledgeable enough to push back and say like, no, African Americans are targeted more by the police, so they should get more protection. Disproportionate force against them should be met with disproportionate protection for them. It's simple math.
Yeah.
But he's such an ape. He just doesn't have these points like in his memory banks, I guess. It's like we
His
were
data
talking about
banks are
before.
dry.
Yeah. It's like we were saying before how he only knows as much as his last guest.
Yeah. And then like he just resets afterwards. It's like
Yeah.
I have new alignments.
Yeah.
It is time to do which person are we doing again? Ah, the other side of the rainbow.
Now, I did also want to touch on this point. Whenever it's brought up that maybe Joe Rogan shouldn't have certain people on his show, or let's just say someone's going to do a talk at a college campus and a bunch of students protest, saying that they don't want this person speaking at their school. People will refer to that as like censorship or like silencing these people.
Yeah, but it depends on what they're saying, in my opinion. Like if the guy is if it's just like someone trying to talk about, if they're gonna have a civilized discussion about like what we should do about the tax problem in the United States, okay, that's one thing. But if they're gonna
Well,
talk
a
about like
civil
whether or
and
not we should
educated conversation. A
yeah.
conversation between Joe
Well,
Rogan and Dave Rubin can be civil, but neither one of them are going to know what they're talking about.
yeah. But no, what I mean though is like if it depends on the context of like what the discussion is. If it's like something about like dealing with the economics of our country and stuff like that, yeah, they should talk. If the debate though is whether or not we should hunt trans people for sport, you know, maybe those college kids have a point.
Yeah. And
That's not the reaction a sane person should have.
Yeah, and in my opinion,
This person does something in my religion that I think is wrong. Let's kill them.
There is a clear difference between censorship and just vetting your guests.
Yeah.
Like there's, like if you're saying some like out there ideas and the government doesn't want you saying those things, so they threaten, coerce, force, whatever, they make you stop saying that thing, that's censorship.
Yeah.
If you want to go on a talk show and spout these ideas and they decide that they don't want to have you on, that's not censorship. That's just them choosing who they want to have on their show.
Yeah.
Now, am I being censored because I'm not saying this on Joe Rogan's podcast? No.
No, Alex, you are being censored. We have to go and assassinate Joe Rogan. Quick, my dear listeners, rise up.
We just don't have the listener base yet. All right, we gotta grow our audience by like 10,000 times, and then we'll probably be big enough to be on his radar.
Be big enough. We just gotta expand.
It's like we were saying earlier with Agario or agar.io.
We have to become one of the large masses.
Yes.
Like not too big to where like Microsoft or like Valve would buy us, but like big enough to where Joe Rogan will notice us. Like, hey, they seem like a nice little morsel, but they're almost my size though. Let's talk. But then of course, we have to be careful because if he gets bigger than us, he will devour us on his show. He'll just like lunge over the table. Did my thing die again?
No, I was just eating something.
Was it Joe Rogan? I don't think I could ever do what he does just because like so many things piss me off nowadays. It's like I'd probably get into like a screaming match with someone.
Hey, that's good for views.
It's good for views, but at the same time, it's not good for my health.
Now, I just got to say, like, we're saying a lot of big ideas on this show. Okay, we're setting up our booth in the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
And I just got to say, we are being heavily censored because CNN won't allow us on to talk about these issues.
Yeah, why aren't we being invited to CNN interviews? Where are you, CNN? You're censorship. Censored. We have to go riot in the streets at CNN headquarters. Where is CNN station? New York?
Probably.
Let's go there. Let's go to New York and let's form a human circle around CNN. Force them to interview us. We just wanted to be on TV.
Interview us or else you're big gay.
Yeah. Get wrecked. Scrub. Do 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 do.
Now I just want to make this one last point in the Joe Rogan section.
Yeah.
So I was touching on this earlier, but we got to stop pretending that Ben Shapiro and people like him are smart and have good ideas.
Just because you talk fast doesn't make you smart. My parents have been telling me that since I was born.
Yeah, like whenever someone pushes back on Joe Rogan, and whenever someone is like, why do you have these people on your show? Like, why do you have Ben Shapiro on? Like Duncan Trussell was talking about this when he was on Joe Rogan. He was like, why do you have that guy on? He's so silly. He's such a he's a doofus. Yeah. And Joe Rogan always says like, well, he's a smart guy and he's really nice. He's really nice to me.
Well, yeah, Joe, you're white.
Yeah. It's like what happened with Ellen. It's like, well, Ellen is nice to me personally, so I can't see how she would possibly be problematic around anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, Ben Shapiro is nice to me. I can't imagine how he would be, problematic for any other minority groups. You know, and he says that hip hop isn't music, and the inner city culture is lazy. You know, I can't imagine how that would be problematic for anyone else because he's nice to me, a white man personally.
A white, balding, middle-aged man. Ben
Yeah.
Shapiro's perfect demographic.
Joe Rogan, I know that he has a sense of right and wrong. I know that he's a pretty liberal guy, I would say from what I've seen of him. But he looks like a skinhead.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a fucking armband underneath his shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's not like a Nazi or anything. I just want to say that, and I know that
Imagine
I
a
know
Joe
that
Rogan episode.
appearances.
Appearances are deceiving, and you shouldn't judge someone based on them. However, I'm just saying if Joe Rogan at some point during a video pulled off his shirt and revealed a giant swastika tattoo to his chest, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just saying that it's no wonder these people like him so much.
They're like, oh, he looks just like me.
He looks like someone you could casually drop the N word around.
And when you're also white,
Yeah.
he looks like someone that would casually drop the N word when you're around.